So we're all living through this massive AI boom, right? It's changing everything. But what if I told you that one of the biggest players in this game, a company worth tens of billions of dollars, might be, well, on the verge of going bust? Let's dig into what's really going on. And look, that's not me saying it. That is a direct quote from an analysis of a recent corporate filing. This is the bombshell that really kicked this whole thing off. And we're not talking about some tiny startup here. No, this is a company right at the heart of the whole AI infrastructure explosion. So you gotta ask, right? Is this just one company hitting a rough patch? Or is this the first big crack in the foundation of the entire AI revolution? That's the huge question we're gonna try and answer. All right, here's how we're gonna break it down. We'll start with this one company's weird filing, then we'll look at their financials, the ticking clock really. From there, we'll zoom out to see how the money flows in this whole industry. We'll talk about where we are in the classic boom-bust cycle, think of it like a baseball game, and we'll wrap up with a crazy paradox, how the very innovation driving this could be its biggest threat. Okay, so this whole thing really got started because of what you might call a secret memo. It was buried in an 8K filing from a company that, on paper, should be one of the biggest winners of this entire AI gold rush. And that company is CoreWeave. Now, if you don't know them, think of it this way. They're the ones selling the picks and shovels in the middle of a gold rush. They build and run these massive data centers, stuffed to the gills with NVIDIA chips that power pretty much everything you can think of, from ChatGPT to the most advanced scientific research. They are, and I mean this, absolutely critical. And this is where all the alarm bells start ringing. In a legal filing, CoreWeave basically went to its lenders and said, hey, we need to completely rewrite the rules on our massive loans. And the changes they managed to get? Wow, they're pretty extraordinary. So what did the lenders actually agree to? This is what's so revealing. They basically said, sure, let your cash reserves drop to a dangerously low level. They also agreed to not even check the company's financial health for another 3 years. And maybe the most shocking part, they allowed for unlimited equity cures. Now what that means is if CoreWeave can't pay its bills, an investor can just swoop in, drop some cash in the pot, and the banks just look the other way, pretending the problem never existed. Wild. Okay, so why on earth would a company that's supposed to be crushing it in the middle of an AI boom need this kind of sweetheart deal from its bankers? Well, the answer is right there in their financial documents. And they paint a picture of a company in a really, really tight spot. First up, the cash burn. I mean, just look at this number. According to their own filings, they are burning through $500 million every single month. That is a staggering amount of money just flying out the door. Okay, so what do they have to cover that? If you look at their cash plus the money they're owed, you get about $3.5 billion. And yeah, you can probably see where this is going, right? So you do the math. You take their cash, you divide it by that massive monthly burn, and what do you get? A runway of just 7 months. 7 months before the money is gone. Based on when they filed this, that puts them on a collision course with insolvency, like right now. I mean, the scale of this problem is just staggering. They've got almost $8 billion in bills due in the next year, but they only have $3.5 billion in cash and receivables to pay them. That means for every dollar they owe, they only have about 44 cents to cover it. That is the textbook definition of a liquidity crisis. So how can this be? How can a company be so essential to the AI boom and at the same time so incredibly fragile financially? To get our heads around that, we need to zoom out and look at the weird, kind of circular way money flows through this entire industry. Okay, so it's like this giant money go-round. Here's how it works. Step 1, investors get excited and pour billions into companies like CoreWeave. Step 2, CoreWeave takes that money and immediately hands it over to NVIDIA to buy their super expensive must-have AI chips. Step 3, CoreWeave uses those chips to build out their data centers, hoping to make money off them down the line. And the whole cycle repeats. But it all depends on one crucial thing, that new investor money has to keep flowing in at the top. And this quote from the source analysis just nails the cynical reality of the situation perfectly. The thinking is basically, as long as Daddy Jensen from NVIDIA comes around and gives you a bailout, we don't give 2 Fs that you're violating the covenants. It's this idea that NVIDIA has become the unofficial central bank of the entire AI economy. And listen, this isn't just some abstract theory. There's a real agreement in place. NVIDIA has committed to buying up to $6.3 billion of CoreWeave's unused server time. It's a lifeline for sure, but it also shows you just how intertwined these two companies are. NVIDIA needs CoreWeave to keep buying its chips, so it's essentially propping them up to keep the whole money go-round spinning. So what's happening at CoreWeave, it isn't just about one company. It's a classic symptom, a signpost of where we are in what's called a capital expenditure cycle, or a CAPEX cycle. And honestly, a really helpful way to think about this whole thing is like a baseball game. So the first inning, that was the big ChatGPT moment that kicked this whole frenzy off. Then you get to the middle innings, the fourth or so, and that's the infrastructure explosion. Companies like CoreWeave frantically building data centers. The analysis we're looking at suggests we're now in the seventh inning. This is the late stage, characterized by a bubble in one key component, high bandwidth memory. And as anyone who follows these cycles knows, after the late innings comes the end of the game, an inevitable CapEx crash. All right, so now we get to the final, and honestly, the most fascinating twist in this whole story. The very thing that makes AI so powerful, that relentless, mind-blowing pace of innovation, could actually be the thing that brings the whole house of cards down. Okay, for example, look at NVIDIA's next-generation chip, codenamed Rubin. The promise is absolutely incredible. We're talking about making AI 10 times cheaper to run. That's amazing for progress, right? But here's the problem. Imagine your CoreWeave. You just spent billions of dollars on the current generation of chips, and then a new chip comes out that's 10 times better. All of a sudden, your massive, expensive investment is basically obsolete overnight. Your multi-billion-dollar assets are instantly devalued. It threatens your entire business model. And so this leaves us with the huge central question of the entire AI boom. Is the same incredible force that's creating all this value, Moore's law on steroids, also creating a ticking time bomb of obsolescence? Is this relentless race for progress also a race towards a cliff?